Hi, I'm Tim. Join me in this video where I'm going to give a little discussion of the Park Zone Ultra Micro radio control equipment. I'm going to tell you where you can buy it because it's a little bit complicated. Then I'm going to give you some tips on using it, to include binding it, channel reversal, channel assign, mounting, and control rod linkage. Let's get to it. The Park Zone line of ultra micro radio control electronics are a wonderful solution to flying smaller radio control models. Generally, if your model is under about a 30-inch wingspan, under a weight of about 3 ounces depending on the wing area, you should have sufficient power to fly that model. The advantage of the Park Zone system is it's one-stop shopping. You have everything you need for that model in a very compact package. The entire unit with the electronics and the battery weighs 0.6 ounces, 0.6 of an ounce. So if you look here, there are 5 things that you need for the Park Zone electronics. The main one is what I call the brick. This unit contains the receiver, the electronic speed control, and 2 linear servos for the rudder and elevator, whatever you want to assign in your model. Now, this is the antenna, and this is the connection for the battery. One thing I want to point out on this brick, there is a front and a back side. This is front and this is back. The reason this is the front, you'll see the gear for the linear servo. If you put this towards the back of the airplane, where the control rods connect to this, the gear will be in the way. So make sure you put the gear towards the front of your model. Also, this is a connection for the motor. You'll have to practice to put it in one way or the other to make sure the prop rotates the correct way. So this is one of the 5 things you need. The other thing is a motor, and it typically comes with a small motor and a mounting that has the geared housing. So this is one complete unit, the motor and the geared. You'll need to buy a propeller. The propeller screws onto the end of this shaft right here. You'll need a battery. They're single cell batteries. This one happens to be 150 milliamps. And then you'll need something to charge the battery. This is a super easy thing to use. It's a USB LiPo charger. You simply plug this into the charger, put this into the USB port in your computer. The red light is on, it's charging. Red light is off, it's done charging. It really couldn't be any easier. We're going to take a look at where to buy these, but be aware that these bricks come in a 4 and a 6 channel version. This is a 4-channel version. The 6 channel has additional outlets for servos for the ailerons. This is an example of an aileron servo. You can see that we'll just plug in here, and you do have ailerons on the 6-channel version. These bricks are very well made. It's truly amazing how much they pack on a very small, lightweight size. However, they're delicate. So when you do receive this, be certain to test it out to make sure it works. I've had on some cases a loose solder joint, whatever, where it just doesn't work. So test it out to make sure it works before you start mounting it onto your model. This Park Zone equipment is used in a wide range of smaller models. A good example is this Radian that I got at Horizon Hobby. This model flies absolutely great. This Park Zone unit is somewhere inside this fuselage. I've never opened it, I've never looked at it, I don't need to see it, but it's in there. In this case, 3 channels with a throttle, rudder, and elevator. The reason I bring this up, you may have a few of these models in your workshop. When you're done flying them, they're damaged or whatever, do open up and take out those the hardware, because the Park Zone equipment can be used on other models that you build. It's a very easy way to build up an inventory of these remarkable control systems. Before I get into the specifics of where you can buy this system, I want to give you an example of 2 models. This is the Stevens Aero Pietenpol. This is one of the 36 kits offered by Stevens Aero that is designed around the Park Zone equipment for the weight, size, all that. And you can see the installation of the Park Zone equipment in the bottom of this fuselage here. Again, 3 channels, rudder, elevator, then throttle control. Another good use of this system is in this conversion to radio control of the Guillow Aeronca 85 Champion. This is a good example of the upper limits of the system. It's a 24-inch wingspan, but there's a fairly generous chord on the wing, so good surface area. This model weighs 2.9, maybe 3 ounces with everything installed. It's fairly heavy, but the model flies absolutely fine. And the Park Zone is just an ideal set of equipment to convert a wide range of Guillow aircraft to radio control flight. So let's take a quick look at how the Guillow Aeronca and the Pietenpol fly with the Park Zone equipment so you can see how well it functions. Then I'll go into specifics of where you can actually purchase this equipment because it's a little bit complicated.
Much better.
Oh, I think flies nice. I'm going to land now. As I mentioned earlier, there are 5 components you need for the control setup. You need to buy the ESC brick itself with the servos receiver, a motor gearbox, a propeller, a battery or several batteries, then a charger. So you'll find that if you just go onto Google or Horizon Hobby, because these components are used in a wide range of models built in, it can be surprisingly challenging to find the individual components that you need if you're designing your own model or you just want to do it on your own. Fortunately, there's a very good solution that I call one-stop shopping for all of this equipment, and this is Stevens Aero. Stevens Aero, and I'll give the web address into the video now, is a company that designs planes like the Pietenpol and a wide range of kits. They're very well designed kits. I'll put some cards up here for the Stevens Aero's kits. High quality laser cutting, wonderful building instructions. They're just an easy and enjoyable build, and the models fly very well. But 36 of the Stevens Aero models are the ultra micro indoor models. The models are literally, like the Pietenpol, designed around and for the Park Zone equipment. So Stevens Aero is a very good source for information on this equipment because it's a necessary thing to build his models. And you can get everything, the ESCs, both 4-channel and 6-channel. You can get the props, the motors, to include the newer higher powered motors, batteries, and chargers. In addition, any changes or update to the system will be discussed on the website. So for example, this unit is probably about 5 years old. It is working just fine, but as newer radios come on with the spread spectrum technology, different digital capabilities, there has been an improvement of these systems. That is contained, reflected, and discussed on the Stevens Aero website. So let's take a little look at that website, and I'll walk you through how to use the website, how to buy the various components, the differences, and then at your leisure you can study the website for more specific information on this Park Zone equipment. This is the homepage of the Stevens Aero website. You can see right on the homepage they're talking about the new Park Zone electronics. These are updated versions that work with the newer radios. So we can click on this, and there's just a great deal of information on the Stevens Aero website on specifics, technical characteristics, what they replace for obsolete equipment, including additional details. They even talk about how to bind the system, which again is very helpful. Should you have further questions, it's quite easy to chat with the folks at Stevens Aero, email or telephone call to get further information. We could go up and see their receiver page. We'll click on the Ultramicro again. Notice there's a 3-channel receiver with the ESC, no servos, that's discontinued. The receiver below, 6-channel, no servos, and then the aileron servos. Again, you can click on the receivers to get more information if you want to order them. We can also take a look at their motors. Stevens does make some larger models in addition to the Ultramicro. The Ultramicro motors, we can click on that. Again, there's a list of the motors with the housing and the gearing arrangements. This is the newer one, the wide version with extra power. Again, plenty of details on the website to make your decision what you want to get. We can take a look at the menu and go to batteries and chargers. Here's a look at the LiPo batteries, and if you want to buy your single cell LiPo for the Ultra Micro, here's a Hyperion battery here that you can order. We can go back and take a look at the chargers. And there's the USB charger for the LiPo batteries for the Park Zone equipment. These are the 36 Ultra Micro equipment that Stevens Aero designs. Great kits, but they're designed around these Ultra Micro electronics. So we can take a look at the Air Camper, which was shown in the video. There's some additional things that you can add, as well as information on specifics of the kit, technical details, and the required electronics that is listed right here. This is the location I found to get the propeller. This is a picture of the propeller that screws on the shaft of the Park Zone equipment. If you click it, you can see that it's in stock, and you can buy it in this location. The first techniques I want to give with this Park Zone equipment is how to bind the system. Binding, of course, with our modern 2.4 gigahertz radios is how we electronically connect a transmitter to a given receiver so that we can fly interference-free. Most larger radios will have either a bind plug or a bind button that you push to put the system into the bind mode. With these Park Zone equipments, it's so small there's no button. The way you put these systems into the bind mode is very simple. What you do is you simply connect the battery, and I'll do this here in a moment, to the system. The system will do nothing for about 5 seconds. If the receiver doesn't see a binded signal to it, the system will automatically go into the bind mode, which is a very rapidly flashing light. When that happens, you can bind your transmitter. So what I'll do is I'm going to plug this in. You'll see there's no light. In about 5 seconds, the little light in the receiver flashes very quickly. It's looking for a bind signal. You need a fairly new transmitter to do the binding. If you have an older transmitter without some of the modern computer functions, you may have some difficulties. My recommendation is to get a newer transmitter. This is a Spectrum DX6. It's under $200. It has everything you need for up-to-date usage of these systems, but again, that's a personal choice. Different transmitters have different methodologies to get into the bind mode. For this one, we make sure that we've selected, I've already done that, the model that I want this receiver to be binded to. To put it into the bind mode, there's a little bind button at the top. I press that down and I turn on the transmitter. It goes into the bind mode. One very important thing with binding, for a bunch of reasons that I don't have to go into here, if you hold this really close to the transmitter while you're binding, it confuses the system. It won't bind. I hold it about 3 or 4 feet away, pointing away to go into the bind mode. And then we'll get a close-up. You'll see the binding process in the screen, and you'll hear the computer voice inside the transmitter go through the binding process. So let's do that right now. We'll take our transmitter, our receiver. We'll go ahead and plug it in. Make sure you note the polarity. The little red dot goes on the bottom, this little handle here. So we plug this in. It's looking, once we plug it in, there's no light. About 5 seconds, it's trying to find the signal. When it doesn't see that signal, there's a flashing light that means I'm ready to bind to whatever transmitter you want. So what we're going to do is hold this away. I am going to hold down the bind button while I turn on the transmitter.
Binding. DSM-2 22 milliseconds, 1024 resolution. Bind complete.
And that's binded. So what will happen is when we're binded, we can tell that we are because the little light goes on steady. And what we'll do is, let's test it right now. So here's the elevator, up, down, but notice the rudder is, in this setup, assigned to the left stick. Sometimes your receivers come like this, where you want, for a 3-channel model, this both on the same side. So what do we do about that? What we do is we reassign the channel. So watch as I do that. I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to press down this button, then I'm going to scroll. And I'll try to keep the screen clear. So I press that down, and what we have to do is scroll down to what we call System Setup. We press that. We're going to lose the RF access. And now we go down to channel assign. We press that, and what we're going to do is aileron is on rudder. We're going to press this, and we're going to put aileron to aileron. Now we go down to rudder, press that, and we're going to change that to rudder. Go back up to the list, go back up to main menu, and now watch this. Instead of this stick controlling it, up, down, left, right. So we've moved the rudder function from this side over to this side with the channel assign. Another thing to keep in mind is when you are plugging this in for the first time, notice that the elevator is on this servo, the rudder is on this servo. Make a little note so when you're upside down installing an airplane, you know this is the rudder, this is the elevator. Now the other thing that may happen, notice in this case when it's installed that up elevator, it goes to the rear. But maybe with your control horns, when you go up elevator, it actually goes down. What we want to do is very simple. We just want to reverse the servo setup. So on the main screen, we go to this travel thing, and this is the important point. We press this once to select this menu, and notice that we can do a couple things to include reverse. We click the reverse right there, go to elevator, watch, we're going to press it, that little black switch will go down. We go to list, main, and notice how that is now going the opposite direction for the elevator. So that's how you can swap that around once it's installed. So channel assign and reversing the control function. The other thing that's important, and it can be quite challenging, is how you set up the music wire control rods to go from the receiver to, in this case, the elevator and the rudder, because it's a fairly complicated run here with quite small music wire. The answer is you do the control rod setup before you cover the model. So you'll have to install the tail surfaces with the control horns, but you want to put in this music wire with the holes in the various formers before you cover it. The other thing is, you'll notice that there are these little Z-bends that go into the control rods, both on the rudder and on the electronics here. It's impossible to get this just the right size. So what we do is we make two pieces of music wire, one from the servo and then another one to the control rod. They overlap during this portion, and we take heat shrink tubing and we can adjust it very precisely, shrink the heat shrink tubing, then put a little bit of glue on either end, and that's a perfect, easy way to do the control rod adjustment. What I mean by that is here are the two music wires that are the control rods. Notice a Z-bend here, then put another Z-bend here. You just take some heat shrink tubing, you put it in like this. You can adjust it as you see fit, shrink it with a heat gun, a little bit of glue, so you get a final result like this at just the right length. It's a very easy process to put in your control surfaces before you cover them. The other thing that I mentioned is these are very delicate electronics. To mount it, I actually have glued this onto a piece of foam. Another thing you can use is double-sided adhesive tape. There's no screws or anything to put it. You just have to use sticky tape of some sort to put it into place. I like the foam backing because I can mount this foam onto a different model without getting too much handling of the electronics itself. So thank you again for joining me in this video. The Park Zone Ultra Micro Electronics are a wonderful way to set up, control, and power small and radio control models. It's very easy to install them once you've done a few. Stevens Aero is the best place to get them. And if there's any questions, you can reach out to them directly with an email or a phone call. If you want an additional source, you can take that information from the Stevens Aero website, go to Google or Horizon Hobby, but I think you'll find it very easy to shop on the Stevens Aero website and use this wonderful equipment for your ultra micro radio control model aircraft. Thank you.